Hi, boys and girls. So I'm going to go over a reading learning target for today. This is our first learning target, and it is I can draft a detailed sentence and conclusion statement of my informative paragraph using evidence from my research. So this is what our paragraph should look like. Yesterday you worked on the focus statement and your detailed sentence. Today we're going to work on another detailed sentence and the conclusion. So the detailed sentence is going to help the reader understand your focus statement at the top. And the sentence is going to describe the second body part. Now we're still talking about beaks, so it's just going to be another type of beak that you want to describe. And the sentence that tells what the body part does. So what you're describing the beak and then describing what the beak does. And then finally, you're going to wrap up your piece with a conclusion, and you're going to remind the reader about what that big idea is. So what is your writing mostly about? Okay, so let's take a look at our birds first, and let's review all the birds we've discussed. So remember, the big idea here is, how do birds use their beaks to survive? So here is the description of the beak. Here's how it helps the bird survive. And finally, the name of the bird with a picture. So let's review. So first we had short cone shaped, and they use these type of beaks to crack seeds. And that is the song sparrow. And here's a picture. We also had heavy, sharp beaks, and they're used to crush seeds, and that's the macaws. We also had long, thin beaks, and they use those beaks to reach into flowers for nectar, and those are the hummingbirds that do that. And we also had a hooked beak, and hooked beaks tear scales and flesh, and we learned that eagles do that. Next, we had sturdy and strong beak, and they use that to pound holes in trees for insects and hide food. And we learned that woodpeckers do that. We learned about an upside down beak, and they use to catch and filter food, and that's flamingos. We learned about an uneven beak, and they trap fish with that beak. And those are the skimmers. Here's a picture. And we also learned about a flat paddle-shaped beak, and they use that to stir mud to find food. And those are spoonbills. And here's the picture down here. Okay, so those are all the birds that you're going to think of only one. Okay, so and you're just going to be describing the beak and then what that beak does. So we want to create a sentence that does that. Okay, so remember, the sentence that describes the body part, the beak, and then what that body part does. Okay, so I was just actually thinking about the spoonbill, and I'm reminded that the beak is flat and paddle shaped. And what do they use that for? They use that to stir mud to find food, kind of like stirring a pot. So I kind of like that bird, and I want to include that here. So I'm going to create a sentence. So I'm going to create a sentence that says, other birds have flat, paddle-shaped beaks to stir mud to find food. So let me start writing that sentence. Other birds have flat, paddle-shaped beaks to stir mud and find food. Okay, food. Okay, so in my sentence, I'm giving a detailed sentence. Doesn't actually fit on there too well, but other birds have flat, paddle-shaped beaks to stir mud and find food. So I'm making a complete sentence out of the ideas of the spoonbill. We don't have to mention the name of the bird, but we are giving describing the beak and also what the beak, how the beak helps them survive. Okay, so you can try something like that, and I will have all of all the birds posted in the Nearpod, so you can go back and look and see which one you want to choose. Okay, we also want to think of the conclusion, and the conclusion wraps up your piece and reminds the readers of the big idea. So, what is your writing mostly about? So, if I think back to our question here, how do birds use their beaks to survive? We want to kind of touch on that idea because that's really what we've been looking at through this whole unit. So I'm going to start. Boys and girls, you might remember how we started our conclusion sentences in school when we did our writing on animals. We started with that as, so let me just move that up. As you can see, birds use their beaks. So you've noticed they've used their beaks in many different ways to help them survive. So we're kind of going back to that same point that we were thinking of with how are birds able to survive, but they're using their beaks in different ways. And we saw through our chart all the different ways they're using their beaks to help them survive. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. And as I said, I will include, for your detailed sentence, I will include these on a Nearpod slide so you can go back and look. And for your conclusion sentence, you want to try to have some kind of sentence that kind of brings everything together for that big idea. So something about how birds are using beaks. And you can look at mine and kind of reword it in your best way. All right. I hope that helps you with the lesson today, and I hope you have fun, enjoy writing about birds. Thanks so much.